Venom, Let There Be Carnage hits theaters next month, and while it's great to see some of these big players on the big screen, one can only imagine what we would get if Venom was just part of the MCU with Spider-Man. We're so close, but we can't complain. Here to count down our top 10 Venom villains we want in the MCU, I'm Taylor McWaters, you're you, let's dive in. Number 10, the Jury. When there was a mass breakout from the vault, General Owen Taylor's son, Hugh, was tragically killed by Venom, so Taylor and his other son, Max, were out for some sweet revenge. Now, some other hotheads eventually got involved, and eventually they were called the Jury. They kidnapped Spider-Man and tried him for bringing the symbiote to Earth in the first place. They were pretty official. The Jury would be awesome in the MCU because when the Jury lost their support staff and funding, they were all hired by Edwin Cord, which is an enemy of Iron Man's. Now at the same time, US Agent was hired to be the team's leader. The Jury wears modified guardsman armor, with each member rocking a cool weapon. In Thunderbolt issue 23, we see Sentry, Bomb Blast, Firearm, Ramshot, and Whisper on the team. We're getting armor wars in the MCU, so never say never. If Venom comes to the MCU, US Agent would totally get involved. He's already on the naughty list. Number 9, Pyre. First appearing in Venom Funeral Pyre issue 1, Gray Russell was a young journalist who discovered his dying father was working for Hydra. Oof, big oof on that one. So Gray went to an abandoned Hydra base to get more info on his father, or really any info in general. And when he got there, a gang had taken over the land. So Gray hired 2 guys to go in and attack a lone member of this gang, and then Gray came in and then saved them, you know, the classic. He saved them, they accepted him into their ranks, all was going well, but when it came to initiation time, Gray had to take part in a drive-by shooting. These guys were the real deal. The Punisher then came in, obviously, and then everything got quite messy. But while that popped off, Gray was able to run back to the lab where the Super Soldier program was left. Gray entered a chamber, clicked some buttons, and then turned himself into Pyre. And before we continue on with this list, you already know the drill. Go give us a thumbs up if you're loving this nerdy content. And also give us a thumbs up just because, you know, we're having a good time. Number 8, Virus. Matt Gargan blamed Venom for ruining his entire life. This was after absolute carnage. Gargan was left a paraplegic, so he got all of his money and did a supervillain gear haul. He got an old War Machine suit, vibro shock gauntlets, an old Goblin glider, and pumpkin bombs. He made this entire new suit, gave it a menacing paint job, and went after Venom, now as Virus. He ambushed Eddie and actually managed to separate him from the symbiote, while of course monologuing about his cursed past the whole time. Gargan almost took Eddie out when he was crushing his ribcage, but luckily the symbiote had his back and Gargan had to retreat. When Virus attacked again, he followed Dylan Brock to a warehouse owned by the Maker. Virus fought through the Maker's defenses and kept attacking Venom to a point where he accidentally destabilized the Maker's interdimensional portal machine, and when Venom and Dylan got sucked into it, Virus went as well. No matter where they end up, Virus wanted to end Venom, even if it's Universe 1610. Number 7, Jack-O-Lantern. First appearing in Captain America issue 396, Steve Levins was originally a villain to Cap and Spider-Man. Now he was part of the Red Skull skeleton crew, but later on, his recent origins, they're actually quite tragic. In Venom Volume 2, Jack was this troubled child who disobeyed his parents and enjoyed hurting animals, just all around not a great pupil. One Halloween, he visited the crime master who straight up kidnapped this child, but over time, Jack believed that he was his real father. It was twisted stuff. And on top of that, he was trained to be a master assassin, and to show his devotion to his new father, he took out his real parents in a brutal way. He turned them into human jack-o'-lanterns. So I'll let you paint that photo in your head for a bit. When Crime Master sent Jack to find Dr. Ekmakik, who was an expert in handling Antarctica vibranium, Flash Thompson's agent Venom was also trying to do the same. Neither of them got their hands on this guy, but they did become enemies in the process, which, well, that's all you need really. Number 6, the Sin Eater. Great nickname, love him already. Stanley Carter entered comics way back with Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 107. As a child, Stanley was sent to live with his grandparents in the Ozarks. His father passed away at a young age and his mom was in a rehab clinic. So again, a tough upbringing. These villain stories just don't come out of nowhere, it's always a tragic start. After his grandfather got bit by a rattlesnake, Jesus, he sadly didn't make it, but there was a sin-eating ritual held for him where a masked hermit came along and then ate fruit from his dead corpse. Disgusting. So when the Sin Eater looked at Stanley, he felt a connection with him. Maybe it was the raspberries and the guts on his face. It was maybe hard to look away. I don't know. I'm gonna throw up. Weeks later, his mother returned and took him with her to New York City. Stanley grew up to become a SHIELD agent where he volunteered for an experimental drug. This drug was said to increase strength and stamina, and now this obviously didn't work, and he immediately started to go mad. He got a shotgun, a new costume, and sought out to rid the world of sins himself. SHIELD experiment gone wrong. We can never have enough of those in the MCU. MCU. Throw them in, why not? Let's do it. Number 5, the Stalkers. Making their first appearance in Venom Knights of Vengeance issue 1 back in 1994, the Stalkers are former mercenary gun runners. We have Briggs, Cass, Raiden, and Trent. Their whole thing was selling guns, but one day when they picked up these weapons from an alien ship, they themselves were infected with a techno-organic virus. A strange voice had encouraged them to pick up these weapons, and like fools, they did, and now they're a super crew with super weapons built in to their bodies. The virus took over their entire body, and eventually the Stalkers started to behave like hunters. They wanted to eliminate every human from the planet, as do most of these villains for some reason. So Venom had to take them down, of course. The final Stalker Venom had to fight was Trent, big old T Trent. He had just absorbed everything at this point and was able to take on Venom and Vengeance at the same time. That's wild. Now Venom luckily hit him with his own energy lance, but that fight was way too close for comfort. If we had him in the MCU or any of these guys, it would be a blast. Number 4, Juggernaut. Cain Marko has been one of Marvel's biggest and baddest characters since his first appearance in X-Men issue 12. Once Marko came into contact with the gem in the Lost Temple of Cyttorak, he himself obtained the power of the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak, becoming a human Juggernaut. Cain was hired by Scarmore CEO Charles Evans to take care of anybody who was planning to sue his company. If you can't beat him in court, just beat him up. Alright, sure. One of those targets was Venom's love, Beck Underwood. So of course he went toe-to-toe with Cain. The pair fought for a long time, and Juggernaut was just whipping Venom around, adding to his anger, and then in turn he was getting hit right back from Venom. It got to a point where the Juggernaut just gave up and left the fight. He just abandoned his entire contract. I love it. They're bringing Deadpool over to the MCU, so hopefully Juggernaut can squeeze in as well. One can dream, right? Number 3, Scream. Making its first appearance in Venom Lethal Protector number 4, this scary looking symbiote is one of the 5 Life Foundation symbiotes. Donna Diego, a Life Foundation volunteer, bonded with the symbiote and became Scream. She made a fun appearance in the Venom movie, but still, it's not the MCU. We need them in the MCU. We need web swingers. It has to happen. They need to meet Spider-Man. She helped new hosts deal with a new symbiote merging, and I imagine it's not too comfortable to have an alien race inside of your head, so she comes in handy. The coolest thing about her is that she can use her hair to fight as well, so she's pretty unique to watch in action. In the comics, she went like 20 years without actually having a proper name, which is wild to me. She didn't don the name Scream until a toy line from Toy Biz dropped the action figure in the 90s, and they just titled it Scream. So yeah, she deserves more attention. Definitely put her in the MCU as well. Number 2, Toxin. Born from Carnage, we have symbiote number 1000. Toxin first appeared in Venom vs. Carnage number 2 in 2004. Now when Carnage was giving birth to Toxin, Carnage initially wanted to destroy the spawn. But once Toxin was finally born, Carnage was too weak by the process to kill it at that point. Venom, on the other hand, wanted to raise the spawn and train it, and even named it Toxin. See, he gets a name, come on guys. New York City cop Patrick Mulligan then became the host of the symbiote. Patrick actually left his wife and kid because this thing was too unpredictable and powerful and dangerous. So Venom and Carnage saw this police officer infused with Toxin and knew that it would most likely end up becoming a hero. A hero with the abilities to shapeshift, unlimited webbing, healing factor, tracking specialties. It can even hide itself in the blood of its host, so this is a pretty dangerous hero. So they both obviously wanted to try and kill it, and of course they both failed. Toxin stands out from the rest of the symbiotes because, as I said earlier, he's spawn number 1000. Every 1000 generations, the symbiote is born with what's called genetic memory breakdown, and since he was abandoned at a young age, he never really acted like a true symbiote in the first place. During a heated battle with Venom and Carnage, Toxin was actually given a helping hand by the web-slinger himself, Spider-Man. After the unlikely duo defeated Venom and Carnage, Spider-Man encouraged him just to be better. I would love to see this unfold in the MCU. Bring over Venom, Carnage, let's bring them all over, let's party. Then we can do all these amazing relationships with Spider-Man. That's the whole point. Please, please. And finally, number 1. Knull. The god of the symbiotes himself, here we go. Making his debut in Venom Volume 4, Issue 3. So all the way before life and creation itself, before the universe even, I'm talking way back in the day, ancient deities awaited in the darkness. Once the universe became a thing, Knull, the god of darkness, wasn't a fan of the company, and he set out to destroy the Celestials, and then he immediately went to war. So after forging the All Black, which was a sword of living darkness, and a Celestial's head, he got his ass handed to him. He figured out a new plan. He figured, you know what, maybe if I can just create symbiotes, I can manifest my own suit, and then create an army, and then go after these gods. He's recently given the Avengers a run for their money when he arrived on Earth in King in Black. If you haven't read King in Black, you must do so right after this video. Guys, those were just 10 Venom villains that would be awesome in the MCU, but who else do we need? Drop those comments down below, let us know, and maybe you'll see them on a part 2 perhaps, maybe. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters. Keep on being you, and we'll see you next time on Top 10 Nerd. Peace. left. And while it's great to see these big players on the big screen, one can only imagine what we would get.
Welcome to Most Amazing Top 10. I'm your host, Rachel Fisher, and today we're talking about Marvel.
Here to count down our top 10 villains we want in the MCU, I'm Rachel Fisher. Let's dive in. That's a cameo, that's a hijacking. We're getting fired today. We're getting fired right now.